that 25?
Welcome back, my people. We've been playing for around an hour and a half and it's been pretty smooth sailing up till now, up 20 quid or so. Nothing's really been worth a feature for the vlog, but now action folds to us in the cutoff and we have Queens, our second real premium of the session. I raised to £7. The button, who I haven't been involved in a hand with yet, is a younger, straightforward ABC type player, which, to be honest, I think is the type of player you need to be to beat these stakes. He decides to raise to 20, 65. I announce 65, and before I even touch my chips, he mucks. Just a few orbits later, we get dealt this beauty in the cutoff. I raise it to 8, and once again, but this time in a much earlier configuration, the same opponent 3-bets us to 24. Action folds back to us, and already this hand is shaping up nicely. I do think we are too deep to push it all in, so I elect to just 4-bet to 74, which, yes, is on the smaller side, and he doesn't take long to just make the call. Heads up to the flop we go, which comes 5-9 king, 2 hearts. We don't have the ace of hearts, but we do have an overpair on a board that hits our range, and so I think a small range bet is the best play here. So I decide to check because I don't know quite what I'm doing.
I don't know what I'm doing. Ah, shit, fuck me, shit, what the fuck, fuck, stop screaming.
But +2 is kind enough to bet the flop for us. I call his £50 bet, and now the turn is not great. It is the Queen of Hearts. So now we lose to his flushes and queens, although I don't think he is betting queens on the flop. I check, and with around £250 in the pot, he surprisingly goes all in. We have around £250 more behind, and so are facing a pot bet. I'm quite honestly thinking I have aces, he could have ace-king. I close my eyes and make the call. He turns over pocket kings. Shit. One time, please. Nope, it's another king. Think, looking back, it was pretty clear that when he went all in, he knew it was going to be hard to get paid if a 4th heart came on the river. Secondly, he's likely to just check back his flush draws in position on the turn, I think. Lastly, he is betting into a range which is pretty uncapped despite making a bad flop check, as after all, we were still out of position. So I think with all this being said, it leans to his hand being very strong, and most importantly, stronger than ours, and so we probably should have found the fold here. At least we can do that in the future, but yeah. I can't lie, this one hurts. We move and actually end up taking a break from poker to go back to the drawing board after this defeat.
Hey, there we go. Hello.
What is happening, people? Today is quite a big day because the last vlog is from 3 months ago, as we've had a 3-month break and I've finally caught up with content. This vlog will just be probably like a week old, and so we're caught up, and we're going to be returning to the live streets for the first time in 3 months. In those 3 months, I've been practicing online. I've been reflecting on my game, just ultimately trying to improve, and we will see if there has been any improvement today. And hopefully we can get a result. Hopefully we can run good. I'll see you at the tables. The first significant hand that we get dealt after our big break for the vlog is pocket nines. I open and everyone folds. Moving along, we look down at the fish hooks. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 limpers before us. I raise it to 25 to try isolate, and I am only semi-successful as we get calls from both the low jack and cutoff. We hit gold on the flop. Jack, 10, 5, rainbow. First to act, I don't think check-in to check raise is a bad strategy at all, but I decide to bet really small. To be honest, far too small. Probably better off betting 25 or 30 here, but I bet 15 and both players call for that price, and the turn is a brick, but brings in a flush draw. Now around 130 in the pot, I bet 60 and only the low jack calls. River is now inconsequential, and now there is 248 in the pot. We have 300 behind and the nuts. I put all 300 into the middle and he snap folds. In retrospect, I don't think the line I took was the problem, but rather the sizing I used on the flop and turn was just too small to set me up for a more callable jam on the river. So I think I missed out on some value in this one, and we move. After that hand with the jacks, we have 525 behind and pick up the jacks again. I raise to 7 out of the low jack. We get free bet by the high jack to 21, and now the button, the player we just faced in the previous hand, 4 bets to 65. This is quite a tight spot. He should have queens plus here. That's what I put him on. For that reason, I make the tight fold. I think this is a good fold, a fold I wouldn't have made a few months ago. Probably would have called, and I'd like to think this one saved us money. We never found out what he had though. Let's party. Next up, we pick up ace jack off. First to act, I raise to 7, low jack calls, and the blinds call. We go 4 ways to queen, 8, 10, 2 clubs. Action checks through. The turn is the jack of clubs, bringing in the flush and a one-liner to a straight. So we do improve, but we also just lose to so much here. The blinds check, I decide to check, and now low jack last to act bets 12. The blinds now fold, and action is on me. I get a feeling that he could be bluffing, holding a club. So I do decide to make the call, which is quite loose, I think. River is the 5 of spades. It's a brick, and I check to the low jack, hoping he will check back. But no, he bets 21 into 52. A really small bet. I probably should just call for that price. But guys, I don't mind if you just skip this part. I do end up folding, which to be fair makes you question why I bothered calling the turn. But he does pass us his hand and lets us see that he bluffed with pocket 4s containing a club. So I should have followed my gut. Nice hand, we move. We then pick up this snowman. First to act, I raise to 7, hijack calls and big blind calls. We go 3 ways to ace 9, 5, 2 diamonds. Not the greatest of flops. We had the third pair here, so I'm hoping to see a cheap showdown. It does check through, and now the turn is the 2 of clubs, bringing in a flush draw. But when the big blind bets 10, we are done with this one. Up next, we pick up the TNTs on the button. The hijack limped, the cutoff raised very small to 7, and I think this is a mandatory free bet. I raise it up to 30, and we successfully isolate the cutoff who calls. Flop comes 6 queen ace, 2 clubs. Very good for our range, but with our hand, I just want to check, but our whole range just wants to bet, so when he checks, I do range bet 20, he calls, and the turn is the 7 of diamonds, pretty inconsequential, and I just aim to see a cheap showdown now after he calls flop. So when he checks to me, I check it back, and the river is an inconsequential 2 of hearts. He bets 85, easiest fold of the day, and he ends up turning over his hand, ace king for the vlog. Nice hand. We then pick up a pretty good hand in poker. It's none other than the Cowboys. And we are first to act, a raise to 7, and we go a dreaded 5 ways to the flop, which comes 8, ace, 10, rainbow. So odds are looking very slim, but it checks to me. I check back and it checks through. Could it be that we get to see a cheap showdown? The turn is the 2 of diamonds. The small blind checks, but the big blind bets 12 now, and we are done with it. Alright, next hand, it's the big slick. The straddle is on, button and small blind limp, and now time to put in a meaty raise. I raise it to 35, and surprisingly, we get called by both under the gun straddler and the small blind for that price. The flop is on target though. 4, 3, ace, 2, spades. We even have the king of spades for the backdoor when it checks to me. I range bet 35 and only the straddler calls. Turn is the jack of hearts. With £180 in the pot, I want to try get max value from his ace-x combos with a worse kicker. Not to mention the draws out there. I make a chunky £150 bet, which also lets him know I'm probably going to be jamming the river. Straddler spends the next 45 seconds staring at me and contemplating his decision, whilst at this point I think we should be good and hoping for the call. He eventually mucks and we take down a decent sized pot. We then call the straddler in the big blind with jack 9 of spades, flop second pair, check it down to the river and win a tiny one. A win's a win.
Probably I'm good.
Following that hand, we pick up king 10 of spades in the cutoff. There are 2 limpers before us, so I decide to make the squeeze to £15 to get it heads up, and we do. But surprisingly, it's the small blind who calls, and the flop comes 3, queen, 3, 2 diamonds. Small blind checks to us, and on this board, I'm going to range bet. I bet 10. And he calls. Turn is the 9 of spades, giving us a gut shot. So when he checks, I decide to semi-bluff 40 to put max pressure on his lower pocket pairs. And after making that bet, he pretty quickly lets it go. Not too long after, we pick up pocket jacks in the hijack. Under the gun has raised to £5. He is a recreational player by the looks of it, but is definitely not clueless. I raise to 20 to try to isolate and go heads up, and he does make the call. So 2 ways to the flop we go. 4, 5, 9 rainbow. He checks to us, and this flop retains our range advantage. I just bet 15. I could go larger here, and he just makes the call. Turn is the 8 of spades, bringing in the flush draw. Now 6, 7 is a straight. And interestingly, he decides to lead out for £22 into 73. To me, this looks like he's trying to see a cheap river. Can we let that happen? Absolutely not. So I raise to 80 and he thinks about it for a good 20 seconds before making probably what is the right decision and mucks. Later tells me he had 2 overcards. We then look to set mine with pocket 2s by calling in the big blind multi-way, but miss. Lastly, we open the hijack with jack 10 of spades, go 3 ways with the cutoff and button to queen, king, 6 rainbow, 1 spade. Big blind checks to me on a board that favors our range, and we are open-ended and have backdoor spade draw. So I do decide to bet small. I bet 7 into 31. Only the cutoff calls, and the turn is the jack of hearts, now giving us some showdown value. So for that reason, I do decide to check, and cutoff checks back. River is the 9 of hearts, making it a one-liner to a straight. More importantly, we have the straight, and so I decide to bet for value. I bet 25 into 45, just looking to get calls from maybe 2 pair, but he does fold. After that hand, we decide to wrap things up and are happy to kickstart our return to the live streets with a healthy profit in our first session back. Let's go. That's the end of that one. 4-hour session today. It wasn't the perfect session. Bet sizing was a bit wrong a few times, but other than that, we ran well. It was a pretty breezy day in the office, and we will be back, guys. I appreciate every single one of you, as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.